Thanksgiving at my parents' house always came with two traditions: dry turkey and public comparisons. After dinner, when everyone was stuffed and half asleep on the couch, my mom clapped her hands like she was hosting a game show. "Okay, gifts." My sister sat up instantly, smiling. She always did. Somehow she always knew she'd come out on top. My dad handed her a glossy envelope first. "This is for you," he said loudly, making sure the whole room was watching. "Because you work so hard." As she opened it and actually squealed. A cruise package, real printouts, confirmation numbers, the whole thing. My aunt gasped. My cousins leaned in. My mom beamed like she'd just donated a wing to a hospital. Then my dad turned to me with a grin that wasn't warm. "And for you," he said, reaching into his pocket like he'd forgotten I existed until the last second. He tossed me a tiny, crumpled scratch-off ticket. $2. People laughed, awkward, unsure if it was a joke or a message. I forced a smile because that's what I'd been trained to do. But I knew exactly what it was. And I also didn't scratch it right away, because I didn't want them to see me hope. That little ticket changed every relationship in the room. This wasn't the first time they made me feel like the extra kid, so let me explain the pattern. In my family, love came with rankings. My sister wasn't just the youngest, she was the future. The one my parents talked about like she was an investment that would someday pay off. When she brought home a B, it was, "She's trying her best." When I brought home an A, my dad would squint at it and ask, "What happened to the other points?" They called me the responsible one. But it never sounded like a compliment. It sounded like a job description. On birthdays, my sister got parties and surprise guests. I got a cake from the grocery store and a reminder to clean up afterward. When it was time for college, my parents helped her, paid deposits, bought a laptop, covered books. When I asked for help, my mom said, "You're stronger. You'll figure it out." My sister got her first car with my dad standing proudly in the driveway taking pictures. My first car was a hand-me, down with a lecture about gratitude. Even as adults, the pattern didn't stop. If my sister was short on rent, my parents magically found a way. If I mentioned being stressed, my dad would shrug and say, "That's life. Don't be jealous." That was always their favorite word, jealous, because it made fairness sound like a character flaw. What I didn't realize was they were setting up that Thanksgiving moment on purpose, like one more reminder of where I stood. Support is supposed to be based on fairness. In my house, it was based on favoritism. So when they handed me that ticket, I already knew what it meant. My dad leaned back in his chair after tossing me the ticket, looking pleased with himself. "Don't spend it all in one place," he joked, loud enough for everyone to hear. A couple people laughed the way you laugh when you're not sure if you're allowed not to. My mom smiled into her wine glass like this was harmless fun. My sister held up her cruise printout and gave me a look that was half pity, half victory. "Ow," she said, stretching the word out. At least they tried. Tried. That was the whole point. It wasn't a gift meant to make me feel included. It was a message dressed up as a jokey. "This is what you're worth." I felt my face get hot, that familiar mix of embarrassment and anger, and I could have snapped. I could have asked why she got thousands of dollars and I got pocket lint and a laugh. But I didn't. That's what surprised even me. I smiled once, tight, polite, and slipped the ticket into my pocket like it meant nothing. Then I stood up. "I'm gonna help with dishes," I said, because I needed an excuse to leave the room without making it a scene. In the kitchen, the faucet ran and people's voices blurred behind me. I stared at my hands under the water and realized something simple. I was tired of auditioning for love in a house that only rewarded one person. So I made a decision. I wouldn't scratch it in front of them. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of watching me hope and lose. And if I'd scratched it in that room, everything would have exploded sooner. A gift should uplift you. This one was designed to shrink me. I took it home, tossed it on the counter, and almost forgot about it. It was almost midnight when I finally noticed the ticket again. My apartment was quiet in that end of holiday way, leftovers in the fridge, dish soap on my hands, the distant hum of my neighbor's TV through the wall. I was wiping down the counter when I saw the scratch off sitting there like an afterthought. $2. A punchline. I almost threw it away out of spite. Instead, I grabbed a coin from the jar by the door and scratched it right there, barely paying attention. Just something to do while the kettle heated. At first it was nothing, numbers, symbols, the usual. Then I paused. One match. Then another. My stomach tightened, and I leaned closer like the card might change if I stared hard enough. Then it happened again, and again. My hands started to feel strange, cold, almost numb, like the blood was draining out of my fingertips. No, I whispered, because that's the only word that made sense. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the lottery app. I scanned the barcode on the bottom, expecting it to flash, not a winner, and embarrass me one last time. The screen loaded. For a second it spun, and I swear my heart stopped with it. Then it popped up with a message that didn't look real, a harsh jackpot winner. Claim required. I sat down so fast I nearly missed the chair. I thought it was a prank or a mistake until I saw the confirmation code and the instructions about contacting the lottery office directly. There was no confetti animation, no cute celebration, just a blunt, official notice that made my entire life tilt. I took pictures immediately, front, back, barcode, hands shaking so hard the camera couldn't focus. Then I slid the ticket into a Ziploc bag like it was evidence and hid it in the one place I knew I wouldn't accidentally lose it. And I didn't tell a single person, because the win wasn't even the scariest part. The scariest part was what would happen if my family found out. And then I faced the first real problem. If my family found out, they'd try to own it. I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with the TV off, staring at that Ziploc bag like it might evaporate if I blinked too long. Every few minutes, I'd pick up my phone, re-scan the ticket, and feel the same wave of dizziness hit when the words jackpot showed up again. Sometime after 2 a.m., I stopped panicking and started thinking. First, I read everything the lottery site said about claiming a large prize. I learned about claim windows, security, and the part that really mattered in my state. You could claim through a trust. That meant privacy. That meant distance between my name and everyone's sudden opinions. By morning, I'd contacted an attorney, not my family's friend, not someone my parents knew, a professional who did estate planning and asset protection. His first question was simple. Who knows? No one, I said. Good, he replied. Keep it that way. No social media. No hints. Tell no one you don't trust with your life. So I made rules for myself like I was handling a dangerous object. Stay quiet, move slowly, document everything, and don't let excitement make decisions. Most people announce a win. I treated mine like a secret I had to protect, and I almost did it perfectly. Until I made one mistake, one tiny slip. I used my mom's old family iPad to scan the ticket because my phone camera wouldn't focus. I forgot it was still synced to her account. By the time my mom called, I realized the ticket wasn't the biggest shock. Her reaction would be. My mom didn't start the call angry. That's how I knew immediately something was wrong. Hi, honey, she said, voice syrupy, like we were suddenly the kind of mother and daughter who shared recipes and secrets. How are you feeling after yesterday? You seemed quiet. I sat perfectly still on my couch, phone pressed to my ear. I'm fine. A beat of silence, then she went for it. So, she said lightly. Do you want to tell me the good news? My stomach dropped. What good news? She made a little laugh, like I was being silly again. Don't play with me. The ticket. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My brain was racing through the last 12 hours looking for a leak, a clue, anything. Then she said it, casual, confident, like she was commenting on the weather. I saw it on the iPad, she admitted. It popped up in my account. My face went hot. Of course that's how it happened. One tiny slip. Before I could even react, my dad texted me, like he'd been waiting for permission to jump in. Do you tell me? My sister followed a minute later. I'm Sage Key. I'm so happy for you. When can we talk? It was like watching a room full of people suddenly notice you exist because you walked in carrying a tray of gold. My mom kept talking, still sweet. We should all get together, she said, just to talk, like a family. Come over tonight. And then I heard the unspoken part. Come over so we can get close enough to touch it. I stayed calm. Why? So we can make a plan, she said quickly. You don't understand what this kind of money does to people. You'll need us. That sentence. The certainty, the ownership in it, was the moment I knew they weren't excited for me. They were excited about access. They treated me like an afterthought for years, like the extra kid. Now, suddenly, I was valuable. I told my lawyer what happened and repeated my mom's exact words. He let out one short laugh. She just made my job easier, he said. Because that's entitlement, not concern. He told me not to go alone, not to promise anything, and to keep everything in writing. Still, I went, not because I wanted to celebrate, because I wanted to watch them try to rewrite history. I went over, not to celebrate, but to watch them try to rewrite history. When I walked into my parents' house that night, it didn't feel like Thanksgiving leftovers. It felt like a set. My mom had my favorite dessert on the counter, the one she never remembered until it was useful. Old family photo albums were stacked on the coffee table like props. Even the lighting felt softer, like she'd turned on every lamp to make the place look warm. There she is, my dad announced, standing up too fast. He opened his arms like we were close, like he hadn't spent years reminding me I came second. My sister rushed over and hugged me so hard it almost hurt. I'm so happy for you, she said into my ear, voice shaking in a way that sounded rehearsed. My mom's eyes were bright. We've been praying for blessings for you, she said. We always knew something would work out. I almost laughed. Then my dad clapped his hands once, businesslike. Okay, so where's the ticket? Not how are you? Not are you, okay? Not even can we sit down, just where's the ticket? I stood there for a second, letting it hang. It's safe, I said. My mom smiled too wide. Good, bring it out. We should keep it here in the safe until everything is handled. You don't know what you're doing. My sister's smile tightened. Honestly, she said, tilting her head, it's kind of crazy you won. Like I got the cruise, but you got that. It's not exactly fair, is it? There it was, already. My dad chuckled. Well, that's why we did it, he said quickly. It was a little test, a lesson, to teach gratitude. A test, a toothless humiliation disguised as parenting. Real love asks if you're okay. Greedy love asks for the ticket before it asks how you are. And when I wouldn't hand it over, they tried the next tactic. When I didn't move toward the safe or pull the ticket out like a trained little kid, my mom's warmth cooled by exactly 1 degree. Not enough for a stranger to notice. Enough for me to recognize the real her. Honey, she said, sitting down and patting the couch beside her, this is bigger than you. You have no idea what we've done for you. My dad nodded, leaning forward. We raised you. We fed you. We kept a roof over your head. Do you know what that costs? I stared at him. That's a parenting. He ignored that. And now God has blessed this family, he said, emphasizing family like it was a legal term. The right thing to do is share. My mom's voice went softer, almost holy. It's Thanksgiving. Gratitude. God doesn't give you 100 million to be selfish. There it was, God guilt, and the word selfish, all wrapped up like they were doing me a favor by demanding my money. I kept my voice level. I'm not discussing money without my attorney. My sister let out a sharp little breath. Seriously. An attorney? That's dramatic. My dad's face tightened. Don't disrespect us in our own house. Then, my mom slipped and revealed what this was really about. We already promised your sister. She said too quickly that she wouldn't have to worry anymore. I turned slowly. Promised her what? My sister looked away. My dad exhaled like he was forced to admit it. Your sister has expenses, he said. And we do too. The mortgage is behind. Your dad's credit cards. He stopped, then added. We were planning to use this win to stabilize everything. Stabilize. Like my money was a rescue boat they'd already boarded. And then I realized why the cruise package had been so lavish. It wasn't generosity. It was pre-celebration. They didn't give my sister a cruise because she deserved it. They gave it because they thought the worthless kid's ticket would never win. So they could spoil her and still laugh at me. The second I realized the cruise wasn't just a gift, I stopped feeling guilty. I didn't have to dig far for proof. They were careless, because they'd never expected me to have power. Well, my mom was still talking about blessings. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from my aunt, the same aunt who had laughed awkwardly at Thanksgiving and then avoided eye contact. Sass Aunt Linda's, I don't want to get involved, but I heard your mom bragging last week about the gifts. She said the cruise would shut your sister up, and the ticket would keep you in your place. My stomach clenched. Not because it surprised me, because it confirmed it. I looked up and asked calmly, so the ticket was supposed to keep me in my place. My mom's eyes widened. What are you talking about? I turned my screen toward her and watched her face tighten as she read. My dad scoffed, recovering fast. Oh, for God's sake. It was a joke. Everyone jokes on Thanksgiving. Funny? I said. Because you didn't joke when you gave her a cruise. You performed. My aunt's voice suddenly came from the hallway. She'd followed me over, apparently uneasy enough to come check on me. I heard it too, she said quietly, stepping into the living room. At your house. You said it. Sure, Mom's name. You said the ticket was the cheap one because it didn't matter. You said she'd never win anyway. My mom's mouth opened, then closed. My sister stared at the carpet like it might swallow her. My dad's face hardened. So what? You're going to punish us for a joke. I didn't raise my voice. It wasn't a joke. It was humiliation. He leaned back, arms crossed, and finally said the part I'd always known but had never heard out loud. Your sister needs more, he snapped. She has potential. You've always been fine on your own. You don't need as much. There it was. The hierarchy, spoken plainly. My sister was an investment. I was labor. The room went quiet, and I felt something in me settle. Because once you hear someone admit they've been keeping you small on purpose, you stop trying to earn their fairness. It was a joke is what people say when they get caught. But I had receipts. After that, I stopped negotiating. I started protecting. The next week, I claimed the prize the way my lawyer told me to, quietly, legally, and with distance, a trust, an LLC, a process that didn't put my face on the news or my name on a searchable list. Security measures I never thought I'd need. New numbers, locked credit, cameras, a P.O. box, and a rule that nothing about my finances would ever be discussed casually again. Because 100 million isn't just money, it's a magnet. Then I sent my parents one message, in writing. Like my lawyer advised us, I will not be handing anyone the ticket. I will not be giving cash gifts. If I decide to help, it will be paid directly to a verified bill, one time, at my discretion. That was it. No long explanation. My mom called screaming anyway. So you're just going to abandon us? After all the years we sacrificed. My dad went straight to threats. That ticket was bought in our house. It was our gift. If you want to get technical, it's ours. We can sue. I expected that. People like my parents always run to the idea of ownership when they feel control slipping. I forwarded the text to my lawyer. He sent back one line that made me exhale for the first time in days. If it was a completed gift, it's hers. And if they claim it wasn't a gift, then they admit the gift exchange was fraudulent. Either way, they lose. When I relayed that, my dad's voice turned cold. You think you're better than us now? No, I said. I think I'm safe now. That was the real difference. Most people think wealth is freedom. It is, unless you let it become a new cage built by people who feel entitled to you. So my rules were simply no one moves in, no loans, no co-signing, no shared accounts, no investments, pitched at my kitchen table, and no access disguised as love. And when they realized intimidation wouldn't work, they went nuclear. Once my parents couldn't get the ticket, they went after my name. It started with calls from relatives who suddenly had opinions. My uncle left a voicemail. Money changes people. I didn't think you'd turn out like this. My cousin texted, your mom says you're cutting them off. That's evil, evil. For not handing over my winnings, I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself in 20 different group chats. I sent one message, copy and paste, to anyone who reached out. I won a lottery prize. I'm handling it legally and privately. I'm not discussing it. Please don't contact me about money. If they pushed, I muted them. If they insulted me, I blocked them. Because I wasn't going to spend my life proving I deserved basic respect. I went low contact with my parents. Then, after my dad showed up at my job once, just to talk, I went no contact. I added cameras. I told my workplace not to share my schedule. I changed the locks. I started treating my peace like something worth protecting. Because it was. And I'd love to say it didn't hurt. But it did. Not because I missed the way they treated me. Because I missed the family I kept hoping they could become. I grieved something I'd never actually had. Parents who celebrated me without asking what they could take. Then a cousin I trust called me late one night and said, I shouldn't tell you this, but Thanksgiving night your dad said, even if she wins $5, she'll still find a way to disappoint us. I sat there in silence and felt the last thread snap. Keeping the peace would have meant staying small forever. Here's the part people don't talk about: winning 100M didn't change me. It exposed them. I claimed the money quietly, the way you claim something that can attract the wrong kind of attention. The paperwork is done. The protections are in place. My life isn't perfect, but it's stable. And for the first time, it's either mine. The funny thing is, the best part wasn't the number in the account. It was the silence. No more walking into rooms bracing for jokes at my expense. No more trying to earn fairness from people who needed me beneath them to feel tall. The people who stayed in my life, friends, a couple relatives who actually cared, didn't ask me for anything except updates on how I was holding up. That's how I learned what real love sounds like. Money doesn't buy love. It doesn't fix family. It doesn't turn selfish people generous. It reveals. And boundaries aren't punishment, they're protection, especially when you're dealing with people who only celebrate you when they can benefit. So I want to know, if you were me, would you have helped your parents anyway, even after everything? Or would you have done exactly what I did and walked away? Tell me in the comments. And if you think my parents stopped after my first, no, you'll want part 2. Like and subscribe for the update.